Len Erickson,
Present.
Dan Haggerty,
Present.
Barbara Mathewson, Barbara Mathewson. I think she's here. Dave Olson,
Present.
Claire
And
Toutant here.
I am not seeing Barbara.
She was here earlier.
She was on, but she's dropped off.
Michelle Weil.
Here.
So at present, Barbara is unaccounted for. I think she is probably around.
I'll give her a call.
Okay. Otherwise,
Actually, just saw her drop off right before you called her name.
yeah, she may have had a problem with, but anyway, we have a quorum.
Okay. So go ahead and start. So we're going to be conducting this primarily as a discussion with the community, taking their input on Connect the Coast side. Before we get into the particulars though, with a meeting called to order, I would open it up for public comments for items not on the agenda. And in doing this, for those who would like to speak, if you would raise your hand. You can find that raised hand in the list of participants. I think I did have one email from member of the public, Greg Viegas.
I did want to ask a question, but I'm missing my raised hand thing again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Sid.
On the simple rules for 3 minutes, do we have to state all of our opinions in 3 minutes? Or are we going to go item by item down the plan?
No, we will open it up. I'll cover that at the first, but if you make a comment on one item and then on a return to a different comment, you can do that.
Okay, I'd rather do it that way because
Yeah.
I have too many different opinions on so many different things. Okay, thanks.
Good enough.
Yeah, and Len, you'll make that very clear because it's now unclear with your writing of the what was it, the cheat notes or
Good
whatever.
notes there. Okay, will do. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. You know, because the bylaws say that it should be a completely open and free discussion.
Mhm.
Yes, but time limits are always allowed.
As long as we're going around, you know, I certainly agree with the encouragement of not repeating, but as long as we, you know, go around one group and if anybody has something to add to say, they have another 3 minutes.
No, I think the clarification Sid was asking for, emphasizing, is a good point, to ask a person to make a particular point and then come back if they want to speak again on a separate point. Let's see, we did have a note from Greg Viegas. He was the only person who had indicated he wanted to speak on an item not on the agenda, but I do not see him on right now. He was on earlier.
I'm right here, Len.
Oh, there he is. Your hand wasn't up. I didn't see it there. Okay. Greg, go ahead.
So a few months back, I watched a Board of Supervisors meeting where they accepted 1.6 million approximately from the developers of Big Wave as part of an accommodation for their project. There were some trails and other stuff, maybe an exercise area, and of course, traffic controls included in that bundle for which that money was supposedly accepted. But in reading the Connect the Coast side, I discovered that exclusive of some of the grading and land acquisition costs, the roundabouts were from 5.2 to 7.5 million. So I wrote the comptroller of the county and the general manager on July 13th that I wondered, how does the county know when the monies it's receiving are adequate to fund the project, especially in perpetuity, including operating maintenance costs and asset replenishment going forward? I asked, is there a fiscal sustainability analysis worksheet or some form which details incremental short and long-term revenues and costs, et cetera? And I pointed out that in New York, they have flip taxes when property changes from purpose A to purpose B, like undeveloped to developed or to farmland. And Switzerland and Scandinavia and Vermont all have regional planning authorities which look at all aspects of a project and bring it together. So about 12 days after I wrote that, I got an answer from Tim Fox, deputy counsel at the county. And just to cut to the short part, he said, the basic answer to the question you have posed is that there is no single agency with authority for determining whether all fees imposed on a project are adequate, inadequate, or excessive, etc. Of course, that reply, and it's longer than that, explaining the fragmented method by which we, go around and check on the school and fire and other districts, begs the question, how did the county know that 1.6 million from Big Wave was enough? So I intend to write back and explore that. I'm wondering, is there some kind of checklist the county keeps of all the agencies that should be notified because of development? Do they forward the necessary materials to those agencies? Do they keep track of whether those agencies completed their impact assessments? Or is the developer the only one who knows everything that's going on as he keeps running into all these different roadblocks? Now, I bring this up because I'm planning to follow up, because I view this as a significant deficiency in the county's management of its fiduciary responsibilities. How could you accept a payment and not know whether it's adequate? But I wanted to just announce to those listening tonight and ask for all of you, MCC and others, if you care to advise me on how I should proceed, who I should talk to about that concept of fiscal sustainability for any new project in the county. Thanks.
Well, Greg, you noted this is, I think in a sense, an item not on the agenda. So we're
That's
not
right, public comment.
Right. So the MCC isn't in a position to discuss it or get back to you. We certainly can do that, make note of that. And so we'll do that.
Later, yeah.
Got
Okay.
it? Okay, thank you. Michelle, you had indicated you wanted to speak. Michelle
Yeah,
Dragony?
I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that the Miramar Medio Bridge was closed abruptly on Monday morning without any physical notice. They did do a social media post around Friday or Saturday. I didn't see it. And I'm on social media all the time. It's almost like you have to go to the county, Facebook to actually see what they're posting. But it's closed, and I've done a post, and I've sent the link right there so that you can look at what I've got. I'm going to be posting a little bit more because I went down onto the sand this morning and took some more pictures just to see how bad the foundation is. And it is pretty bad. But the alternative is everybody's going up onto Highway 1, and they are going against Highway 1 traffic with about 18 inches to 24 inches. There's about maybe 50 feet of the actual Medio Bridge on Highway 1. It's opposite where the British guy was killed on his bike. And it's just really super narrow. It opens up after that, but you've got people that are going north and south on one, bicycle pedestrian lane. And the group that's going against traffic ends up closest to the traffic because that's the only way that they can get back at this point. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thank you, Michelle.
Might be an agendized thing or something.
Yeah,
later on.
At the end of this meeting, when we discuss future agendas, I'm sure that'll be an item that comes up in that
Nice.
context.
Nice. Thanks for your time.
Bringing it up. Thank you.
I had a question.
Question?
Yeah.
Who is this?
This is Cid. I had my hand up, but you didn't see it, I guess.
No,
I
don't.
wanted to ask two things, and one is everything I read in this Connect the Coast side said they were going to propose mitigation fees, but sounds like Greg thinks that Big Wave's already paying a few, and maybe it was only a partial payment, but I have the same question he is. How much are the mitigation fees? Because when Joe Leclerc gave his presentation on May 27th, I believe, he was talking about, putting a Sharrow up Sierra Street, and that any improvements that would benefit Cypress Point would be charged in their fair share to a developer. And I want to know what yardstick are they using to measure that fair share? Because there's other things coming on too, like Keaton Erhan's RV park. That's going to be a lot of different traffic mitigating items. So I don't know. It sounds like it's all in the future, but maybe they're already imposing it. Does anyone know? That was my first question. And the second question was for Michelle about, was she talking about the shoulder on Highway 1 isn't good enough to accommodate the fact that they closed the bridge closer to the beach? Is that what she meant?
Yes.
That's what-
Okay, thank you. All right, that's it for me. Those are my questions.
Thank you.
Does anybody know the answer about the traffic mitigation fee? Are they already collecting it?
They do that on a project by project basis.
But they've started doing it already, right? Because the original Connect the Coast site started back in 2012.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with Connect the Coast side. Mitigation fees get charged for large projects.
Well, okay, but
Okay.
what
Sid?
Greg said is it is on the traffic roundabout from Cypress, which was sort of partially allocated to Big Wave. So I just wondered, thank you.
Okay. I did not see that. If there's anybody else, I don't see any other hands raised. Dave, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I have an announcement for the election for MCC council members in November. The filing period will close on Friday, August 7th. At this point, as of yesterday afternoon, I didn't check today, we only have one person who has pulled papers. We have 3 vacancies. So if you are at all interested, you can contact me, see the posting on the MCC website, or contact the county elections office for more information.
Dave, I didn't catch the date on that.
August 7th.
Okay.
Thank you. Claire, your hand is up.
Yeah, I had a question for Carrie regarding the bridge closure. Is that in order or not?
This is just open comment items not on the agenda if you want to say something about it.
I have heard rumors that the county is going to put in some hardening of that shoulder, which would separate the pedestrians and bicyclists from the traffic. Is there any truth to that?
Hi, this is,
So, go ahead. I did have conversations with DPW, and they have spoken with Caltrans about measures to make it safer there. But there's nothing firm in place at this point, but they are looking at it. So the whole thing sort of caught people by surprise, as we know. Okay.
Len, I'd like to add something to that.
Yes, Dan.
And that, I regularly ride my bicycle across that bridge, and I've experienced the, I guess they're 2x12s, the wooden boards that go across as I ride my bike and put weight on one end, it teeter-totters. And so I'm concerned, very concerned about the safety issue, but I'm actually I'm thinking that they've they should have actually closed it sooner and taken a more serious discussion about the repair.
Okay, thank you. I think, we recognized, and even in advance of the meeting, knew that it had come up. There wasn't adequate notice at all to address it. So we aren't in a position to do more today, but we'll certainly look at that when we look at future agendas, as well as there are background discussions going on.
And also just quickly say that I got a message back from Barbara. Her broadband's disconnected for some reason. So I just want to add that, oh, there she is. Anyway, that's a problem with the Zoom meetings. We can't expect it always to work, and people can be left out, unfortunately.
I think she's right here now. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, so Claire, you made note that Barbara's here. We're at a full attendance. Thank you. Okay. We're going to move ahead with discussion of Connect the Coast Side in materials that have been posted on our blog posts and emailed, as well as the original reports and the fact sheets. There's a lot of information out there. The primary purpose of this meeting is to hear from members of the community, questions, concerns they have about it, things that they would like to bring forward, either as observations or questions. We will have a scribe for this, Michelle Well, who will be maintaining a list that we will be able to look at just to see what's there. We're keeping a timer for talking at the 3-minute level. In response to the point, we would request when you're talking to a point, make your point clearly, and then if you want to bring up another point, we'll call you back on, rather than just give an extended sequence. Just put your time on that comment. So with that said, we'll open it up to people who would like to make comments. Members of the council are also free to make comments in the same way that the rest of the community is. So we'll now have a moment's pause and see if anyone has comments. So while we do this, one of the things coming forward, and I just want to confirm with Dave that the video can be played.
Yes.
Okay, so basically we don't have roundabouts here. There have been questions about what it looks like. So I created a short video from using the roundabouts in North Lake Tahoe, just to give people an idea of what in North Lake Tahoe you have many communities as well as the lake area as a whole that have worked with roundabouts for several years and have some installed. So I'm just going to ask Dave to play that video just to see what it looks like from a driver and pedestrian standpoint.
Okay, give me a moment here.
Len, while he's doing his queuing up of the video, I noticed Joe Leclerc is on the line. Maybe he knows about those mitigation fees.
He was, but we're not looking at the fee basis.
Right.
We will.
Well, they are part of Connect the Coast Side, so. Anyway.
Fair point. We will get to that shortly. Okay. What we're seeing here is the roundabouts in action. This is a double roundabout where they're each about 800 feet from each other.
Dave, do we know what the normal traffic speed in this area is on the roads that input to this roundabout?
Coming into this one here, it's 35 miles an hour.
And are you saying that the roundabout speed is 35 miles per hour?
No, the highway speed is 35. Cars going through a roundabout generally will have to reduce speed to 20 to 25. You sort of can see that here.
20, 25. What's the diameter of this roundabout?
It's a single lane roundabout.
What's the diameter?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, I do remember going to Tahoe before they put those roundabouts in back in the 70s, and traffic never went any faster than about 15 miles an hour. So, because there was, bumper to bumper.
Len, you said 20 to 25. I think the video just showed a car stopping. So say 0 to 25.
Obviously.
These cars are stopping,
right?
right?
Yes, about the speed limit, Dan. And here you'll see when a traffic gets fairly heavy, basically it will slow and then moves up and continues to move.
My point being is that if there's a car in the roundabout, the traffic feeding the roundabout must come to a complete stop.
Well,
no, you pause. You pause. They were pausing. They weren't stopping dead.
Exactly. And here's cars going at speed coming into a roundabout.
Yeah, no obstructions.
Mm-hmm.
20 to 25 miles an hour, you say.
But there's no red lights either.
Yeah. Okay. As it just, now, one of the things that this roundabouts have come up to the community in the time the MCC has been hearing discussions in this area, I'd say that when we're asked what the community's response is, the most commonly expressed statement is that people would really prefer not to have to go through intersections with controls, either signals or roundabouts, but that most people would seem to prefer to have a roundabout as opposed to a signal. The experience of Tahoe in terms of putting these in is it's a very extended process. I mean, with people beginning the research, which is really where we're at, you know, it's anywhere from 3 to 5 years before roundabouts actually come forward as completed projects. And that's really once there's an inclination, a plan to go forward and people want to do it. So I'm just saying that by, you know, letting people know what's the council has expressed from observations. It's not a particular scientific study, just what we've observed people say when it comes up. But that being said, any item that relates to Connect the Coast side is open for discussion or questions to be asked in this session.
Len, I'd like to quickly object to the presenting of the video, that you have not allowed or informed any of the other council members to offer to present a optional alternative, be it the smart traffic lights system.
You're certainly welcome to speak about it, ask for it. I mean, this is the time to bring it up. The first person with the head up.
A little notice for preparation would have been very helpful.
Okay. Cid Young and Michelle, will you be keeping a timer?
Yes, I'll start the timer now. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, right, and take notes on what the speakers are saying. So let me go ahead and set that up.
Okay.
I
Cid?
was just going to talk about the roundabout. Do we have to go? I thought we were going to go item by item on the Connect the Coast side. No?
No. It really felt that people may come at it from any particular direction. I've listed what's there, but rather than go in a particular order, anybody who would like to speak on a point is welcome to speak to it.
Well, I would like to speak on roundabout point. It sounds like Dan's kind of opposed, but if you lived in my neighborhood, Dan, and had to leave out of Cypress every single day to go north, and there's no left turn acceleration lane, a roundabout makes so much more sense. I wouldn't want to wait for a traffic light either.
Yeah, just let the person speak.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that's the main thing. Len didn't mention that, you know, it's good. We did prefer it because we didn't want to signal at Cypress, but we also wanted to be able to come and go out of Cypress. There's a lot of people at the mobile home park. There's a lot of people in Seal Cove. And of course, I'm not sure about construction traffic, if they're going to come and go once Big Wave breaks ground, if and when they do. If they're going to be coming out of that street, but it's hell right now. And I think I mentioned it at the last MCC meeting that Moss Beach, you know, is deficient as far as the turn lanes or acceleration lanes. Montera has a middle lane that you can pull out into and then wait till it's time to merge into the traffic more easily and accelerate at the same time. But we don't have that. So if the county doesn't have any money for any of the Connect the Coast side improvements for a long time, I would prefer that they put a middle lane like Montera has, so all the side street traffic can come and go more easily when they're making the opposite kind of a turn. So like from the west side of the highway, it would be a northbound turning left where you have to wait for traffic. And if you're coming from, you know, the other side of the highway, going south is the difficult turn to make. But it would help a lot if we had that middle lane. I have a lot more points, but I'm not going to use my whole 3 minutes on reading 6 pages of notes. So I'll wait till other things come up.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Next up is Dan Haggerty.
Yes. Okay. So I guess we're talking about roundabouts versus smart signal system. I just want to just remind everybody, maybe not everybody's aware, but you know, the effective speed through Moss Beach and Montera is probably 60 miles an hour. Now I want to be very clear. I do not advocate for driving 60 miles per hour through these areas. But I've witnessed it, and I think it's pretty common when there are no cars trying to enter the highway from the streets. Cypress would be an example. So we have an enormous amount of volume of cars flowing through the area. And to reduce it from the effective speed, or let's just say 50 miles an hour, down to 20 miles an hour, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that that is going to create enormous backups. Now, with those backups, what we're going to lose, what the community will lose, are the brakes, how do they call it? The brake spaces between platoons of cars moving on the highway. Now, currently these brake spaces are used for cars to enter the highway. Now, if it's gridlock entering the roundabout, and you have a consistent trickle of cars leaving the roundabout, you will have no brakes, and you will have a car every few seconds. So, and that's in both directions. So you will create a situation where it will be almost impossible to enter the highway safely. Yes, there will be a few do-gooders that will just put on their brakes and stop and let you go. I try to do that when it's safe and when it makes sense, and I don't have a lot of cars behind me, and I know the situation is appropriate. But few people will do that, in my opinion. I should say the majority of people will not do that. So, are you going to interrupt? What? I still have a minute here. What?
For stop signals, or what are you speaking for?
Thank you. I am speaking for a clear communication to the community of the pros and cons of both options. Option one being a roundabout, option two being a system that is a signal system that is reading the amount of cars that are flowing on the highway. The system knows when there's a platoon of 25 cars coming at a high speed, and it's best for everybody to just let them go and then have cars enter and cross during the breaks that are ultimately allowed to let cars flow.
Dan? So you're arguing then for the presence of a smart signal system. Is that what I hear?
Yeah, the actual a presentation of the benefits and how it works, so that the community can understand before they make their decision, which is best.
Just to start the process, Dan, we got your point. Okay, next up is Michael P.
Yes, thank you. I've recently been up in Fairfield, And there's a couple of roundabouts there. One of them's out near Abernathy. And roundabouts seem to work on streets that don't have real heavy traffic. When you have Highway 1, which is for all intents and purposes a throughway, a roundabout creates a real bottleneck. The difficulty is, just like what you're complaining about, that left-hand turn. You have to go in and technically turn right and then start around the loop. So you cross the traffic going south, and then you're going to cross the traffic again going north. And if you're lucky, there's nothing cross-trafficking coming in on the other side. And then you'll be able to exit the circle going out to the north. So a turn to the left, you actually will cross almost 3 paths. So it'll be like going to California Street all the time, where you have 3 or 4 entry points.
Okay.
So, and that's just the way those things work.
Mhm.
They're not designed for highways.
I agree.
Okay, those are state highways all around Tahoe and used there, but I think we're just trying to, are you therefore for signals? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I would be in favor of the signal.
Signals? Okay, thank you.
Michael, can I get your last name for the minutes?
Prieto, P-R-I-E-T-O.
P-R-I-E-T-O. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is JQ.
Hi. First of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about the intersection control evaluation that was done for Cypress Avenue. I looked at that and I noted that it didn't really include assessment of acceleration lanes. It looked at roundabouts versus traffic signal. And also, you know, we haven't done an intersection control evaluation for California Avenue, so we really don't know what's going to work there. But I would recommend when we do that it should include an assessment of acceleration lanes like Cid talked about. I think that makes a lot of sense. And also the assessment of a smart signal, not just a regular fixed time signal. And I think that's the only way we're really going to know what makes the most sense for those different intersections.
Okay.
And as far as what Dan was saying too about roundabouts, and I guess Michael said the same thing, I don't know that it really makes sense for a 50-mile-per-hour highway, but obviously that I would assume that that's going to be part of the assessment in the intersection control evaluation as consideration of that speed. So, and what it does to delay index and vehicle miles traveled and so forth. So that's all I wanted to say for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Greg Diegas.
Yeah, I just want to jump in and agree that we need a study. I would off the cuff say a smart signal is better. I think an acceleration lane is even cheaper. But I wanted to add a couple of data points. As some of you know, I lived in Massachusetts and in Europe, so I'm quite familiar with roundabouts. I have friends who were killed in a roundabout accident in wet weather at night, and another friend who had a significant car crash, and these people were all sober and young. I think the speeds we travel at on that road, as Dan points out, are going to cause risks of frustration. I think that's a great point. Signals will provide a gap in the traffic for people who want to turn left and they're upstream or downstream of the roundabout. And the other thing to note is that in the traffic study, the ratio of traffic on Highway 1 to the side streets was 14:1. So the idea of traffic calming 100% of the traffic for 1/15 of it, just to me, is madness. So I think that's about it. I would, of course, go with JQ that there needs to be a study, because I agree you don't make these decisions off the cuff. But at 1/7 of the cost, a smart signal seems to me the better alternative.
Okay, thank you. Claire.
I had my hand up to ask Michael his last name. Never mind.
Good enough. I was going to put in a comment here myself, so this is putting on my audience hat. A point has been raised actually to me by Lisa Ketchum, who wrote several points that are there for us to consider. But she raised the question of what will happen in the near term. As I said in my opening statement, if we began to look at any form of control, that process really generally takes years. And the question is, what would be the state of Highway 1 prior to that? And what I would put forward is that we would like to know, let's assume that it takes 4 or 5 years to put in some form of control other than what we have now. Can we put in some system of either a combination of acceleration lanes or medians, the tools to provide control without the control, the better speed control or entry control, and basically, while we're looking at the long term, what are the things we can do for the next 4 or 5 years? And this also relates to pedestrian access as well. So as we go forward looking for something better, to consider both pedestrian access and tools such as the acceleration lane or medians, to have a role for that could be done sooner, because we found that Caltrans does seem to be willing to make fairly quick actions under certain conditions. So it's what can we do while we're waiting for a decision to be made? Okay, next is JQ.
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to say I definitely agree with what you just said. I think that makes a lot of sense. And what Lisa was saying too is that there probably are some things that we can do in the meantime that won't be terribly expensive, that'll be very effective in what we really need. And I think throughout all this, to me, the main driver has been safe crossings. And not just about signal control and roundabouts and so forth. So I think that would really help address that issue. And that's what the community's needed for a long time there. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that backing up in your notes there, Len, you actually didn't quote me correctly when I spoke last time. So you had up there assessment of roundabouts and fix. That's what we're already.
That was me. Sorry, this is Michelle. What did I not do?
Yeah, that's
correctly?
that's what's already included in the assessment. What I wanted to add was the acceleration lanes and smart signals should be assessed.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And that should be done with the intersection control evaluation, not only for California Avenue, but we may even consider redoing the intersection control evaluation for Cypress Avenue, or at least doing some additional abbreviated version of it so we can look at acceleration lanes and smart signal there and see how that compares to the roundabout idea.
Okay, got it. I'll change that in my notes.
Next is Kimberly Williams.
Hi. I just wanted to say that in my mind, the top priority that could be handled earlier would be to lower the speed limit in Moss Beach to 45 miles per hour. Several of us have raised that many times during the course of Connect the Coast Side, and I still, it's unclear to me whether that is listed as a viable option. So in my mind, that's the first option, the first thing that should happen. And in regard to that, speeds keep increasing. Newer residents and visitors, seem to be driving sometimes at 70 miles per hour through Moss Beach. That's especially scary when you're on foot or on a bike trying to cross the highway. It is also scary when you're in a car and they whiz past you in a non-passing lane. So it's becoming more and more imperative that we lower the speed limit. And that's not going to stop people from going faster if they want to, but I think it would help. And the only other thing I would say is that I'm a resident who supports the option of roundabouts. And Highway 1 isn't a major highway thoroughfare. It is a rural highway. There is a roundabout on Highway 1 in Fort Bragg that would be very similar to what we would have here. And I'm also supportive of hawk signals if we wanted those as an option. I do not support a stoplight. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Other people with comments or things they would like to bring up? So I wanted to add to the list that we're talked about here, Carlos Street. I think it's important, given Carlos as a proposed route for the parallel trail, to invest in it in terms of being a quality trail all the way through to and across to 14th Street in Montera, so that we give adequate attention to what it takes to do that. I know that there are some places where road improvements might be necessary, but I think that should be looked at carefully, and I think it's our best avenue for that. That is Carlos Street from the parallel trail. Cid Young.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. I just wanted to say, somebody said roundabouts are not made for highways, and I think that statement's incorrect. My brother lives in Sedona, Arizona, and there's a highway that goes from Phoenix or all the way up. I don't know, maybe there's two highways, but the one that you come up from Phoenix on starts going through roundabouts way before you reach the center of town, and they have quite a few, but it keeps all the cross traffic flowing. And just the fact that, you know, if you want to go north out of Cypress from the west side of Highway 1 now, you just have to wait for one of those, maybe they might come, maybe they won't, gaps in traffic. And sometimes you're waiting till the gap comes and, oh, here comes somebody on the highway that wants to turn left into Cypress. So you have to yield to them. So roundabouts, you only yield just till it's safe to get into the roundabout and you get on your way. They save fuel. That's the most important thing that I wanted to say. And then on a new subject, but it's
well, Sid, remember one topic at a time. So that's another supportive roundabout.
So piggybacking on the pedestrian safety in Moss Beach, I just want to bring up the fact that there's a lot of inequities between Montera and Moss Beach. A, they have that center acceleration lane that we don't have. And B, they have 6 traffic lights that illuminate the highway. We have 1. And I talked to Don Horsley about it. Most of ours are San Mateo County provided along Carlos Street. They give a little bit of light onto the highway, but he had to beg Caltrans just to give us 1. And that's where that crazy crosswalk appeared out of the blue on California. So I think I'm really in support of not only pedestrian safety, but more lighting on the highway at night would make it easier to see pedestrians, cyclists, as a motorist, but it's also better for motorists who can see better, especially older people like myself. It gets harder to see later at night, and especially when you only have 1 street light for all of the whole highway. So, you know, I don't know why we only have 1 and they qualify for 6, but.
Your item you brought out there particularly was around lighting on the streets.
Highway lighting. We have, okay, for instance, at Cypress, there's one of those amber lights, but it's on a pole in further down on Cypress. It's not right at the highway, so you cannot see the intersection as you're coming up on it in the dark. You know, that's a pretty major intersection for Moss Beach, like California is. The only highway light is at California on the east side of the street. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Next up is Chris and Chuck. And could you introduce yourself with your last names?
Yeah, hi, this is Chuck Bell. And I just have a question. Len, you brought up the Carlos Parallel Trail. Would that entail closing Carlos to through traffic?
No, I think the point is to keep it open for both. I think it's both use.
Both.
So, no.
Okay, great. That's all I had. Thanks.
It was also speaking to the need to do what near-term things can be done to improve the passage from 16th across to 14th
Right.
in Montera.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because if that work is done, but then you turn the Carlos into a parallel trail, it would have to accommodate traffic as well then.
Yeah, to accommodate both.
Right.
Is that it? Thank
Yep,
you.
that's it.
Dolores Silva. Dolores?
There we go. Hi. One thing that I didn't see in all of this is You know, we all know that when school is in session, the traffic gets much worse during commute time, which is separate from all the tourist traffic. But that whole idea of school buses hasn't been brought forward. And I wonder if things would look very different if that was considered now. And who knows, you know, COVID is bringing a whole new dynamic into this, but it seemed to be like a taboo topic in past sessions. So did it get dropped for a good reason, or is it just something that hasn't been looked at? And that's one comment. And the other I had about Carlos Street. Currently, Carlos Street is really very popular for both pedestrians and bicyclists. And as a person who prefers to walk, I find that a lot of times the parallel trail is just not very pedestrian friendly. And because of the bicyclists, and the bicyclists don't really stop. I mean, they seem to have right away, or they just take it. And I just worry about that here, because we really need a pedestrian trail to get to the beach, or for kids to get to school or whatever. And the safety of the parallel trail is kind of a question mark in my mind. I mean, sometimes I think there should be a cyclist trail that is on the highway, because people want to get through fast on bicycle, and they're serious. A serious biker doesn't come up this way. They go on the highway. And how do you distinguish between those two? Because I would like a safe pedestrian trail.
But just for clarification, I believe within what was presented on the highway that there was the presentation of having adequate bicycle lanes there as well. So I think that was brought up there, and I guess you're speaking in favor of having a good bicycle alternative for those bicyclists who really want to go.
It's too hot on the bottom. Yes, and the other thing is, I mean, currently there's not enough traffic on Carlos that you actually need that parallel trail much here. If Cypress Point comes about, then yes, it becomes a whole different situation, not just for the pedestrians, but for cars.
Okay, thank you. Dan Haggerty. You're mute, Dan.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add, I did look at the Arizona example, the roundabout, and through Google Maps, I went to the street view, and I saw that that is a 25-mile-an-hour thoroughfare. So that is not an example that fits our situation, our conditions. And also I wanted to, I wanted to add to whatever is done through Moss Beach will eventually, Caltrans will use their standards, and they will demand that they put their type of lighting. And I do agree that lighting is important, but imagine the community of the Midcoast, the whole coast side. Imagine a freeway lit corridor through Moss Beach. I think that we should start to think about our area is a unique area, and we really love our rural feel. We could have a great loss if we allow Caltrans to put these typical high road lights through Moss Beach. I think there are other methods of lighting the road that would not destroy the rural feel of our community. And I think that we should look into that, and we should start conversations with the county and Caltrans for different options. We are a unique area, and we should be allowed, looking at alternative ways to light the road. Since I brought it up, I should,
Dan, just to be clear, the previous speaker talked about the light levels in Montera as being satisfactory. Do you consider Montera to be too bright?
I'm not a fan of the standard roadway lights. No, I'm not. I do not like the bright white LED example that they used.
Okay, so you're speaking for keeping the lights dimmer as they are now. Is that
Well,
right?
I want to be careful, right? Because I want to have. I think it's more of bringing the light lower, and not as bright,
Okay.
to effectively light the road and do the job without destroying the night sky.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Kimberly Williams, back up.
Thanks, Lynn. Interestingly enough, I wanted to comment also on the lighting, and I agree with Dan. When we do have clear skies, I enjoy stargazing, and I especially enjoyed looking for the comet this time around. And in San Mateo County, they are woefully terrible at complying with the Dark Skies Initiative. And I also like to preserve the rural character of the place. If lights should be determined to be necessary, I would like them to be compliant with the Dark Skies Initiative to help preserve our night skies, because we already have a lot of light pollution in this area, especially with regard to the plant nursery. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Something I wanted to bring up too is that in the discussion of the basic requirements, we're working with the Comprehensive Transportation Management Plan. There's good quantification of build out. I think through the letters that we were posting for the meeting, there's been a request to distinguish between either one, a full theoretical build out, which we refer to build out, or in our area, LCP build out, meaning a maximum, a theoretical maximum at least. And that it's been emphasized that the build out being used in the study, Connect the Coast side, is one key to the 2040 build out projections, which I think is valid. And so we had a note from the Half Moon Bay Planning Group, which says that for talking about something like the 2040 data or data point, that they refer to it more as a planning horizon. And so I've had a request just to either refer to build out as full LCP build out, and that when they talk about something like the 2041, which makes good sense, just refer to it as a planning horizon for 2040. And I think not using different qualifications for build out everywhere will help keep those points separate. So I just wanted to emphasize that to people here, and I think it was a good point brought forward. Dave Olson.
Yeah, since everybody else has had a chance to speak, although I now see more hands going up, I am, it's no surprise to anybody, in favor of roundabouts over signals. Even with storage lanes, signals tend to have the whole accordion effect. Once traffic stops, it takes quite a while to get it going. There's no doubt that smart signals would keep traffic moving faster when there is basically no traffic load. But my argument is, if there's no traffic load, being slowed down by 10 or 15 seconds going through Moss Beach is not much of a problem. I would also like to say that I am a big fan of reducing the speed limit in Moss Beach. Caltrans has declined to do so. If we get a signal at each end that is coordinated, or a roundabout at each end. That will inherently slow down the traffic through the section of Moss Beach. And in terms of getting out on the highway with roundabouts, if we have a roundabout at each end of Moss Beach, I would suspect all of those left turn lanes will go away. Everybody will turn right, go to one roundabout or the other, turn around and come back. And that's how you'll make your left turn. So it'll be a right and a right and a right. It'll be a right and a roundabout and a right. Safety at intersections with signals is not great. It's better than it is at stoplight signals and plain stop signs, but it is still very dangerous in terms of collisions. So I'm in favor of that because of safety. We've had some, fortunately, non-fatal accidents in Moss Beach, but quite a few pretty severe ones. So, and I will say that there are a number of roundabouts on California highways now that have a 55 or 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, and there are more every year. So they are absolutely being designed for high-speed highways. And certainly with the lower speeds I would like to see in Moss Beach, that will not be an issue. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Note to Michelle, when council members are speaking, just as community members, you should time them as well. Okay, next
Yes,
up.
sorry, I was just trying to
No
remember to time
No
the to start the timer as everyone starts speaking.
Gotcha. Okay, JQ, next.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a few words about build out. I had noted that explanation that you just raised in Joe Leclerc's summary of development projections informing Connect the COSI from July 14th. And it was nice that we had that because I think that was really good in terms of making it clear what those differences were in build out versus a constrained forecast for 2040. The thing I wanted to mention though is when you look at those numbers, both in his memorandum and also in the LCP, one of the things that jumps out at you is that build out nor the constrained forecast are going to be sufficient in terms of maintaining capacity of our sewer and water systems. Or in other words, our sewer and water systems are definitely going to be overburdened. And in fact, we will exceed the number of connections that they can support, at least based on what MWSD has been saying over the last 2 years. And that's even with a constrained development forecast. So the point is that build out and even the sustained development forecast are not sustainable. So I think we need to keep that in mind as we go forward and talk about roadway improvements that are designed to support build out when it's not even realistic in the first place. That's all I wanted to say about that topic for now.
Thank you, JQ. Greg.
Am I allowed to tick off 5 points quick in under 2 minutes?
Sure, if you can do that, you're the man.
Okay, I agree with JQ. I'll have an article on this. We do not have the water and sewer capacity for build out. I agree with Kimberly and others, 45 miles an hour in Moss Beach, which is what I drive at, is fine. And I think this thing should be dropped. As part of the research I did on my article on roundabouts, I found a Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration standard study from Madison, Wisconsin. For safety, roundabouts have to be lit. So that gets back to the idea of the night sky. You're going to have to compromise there if you have a roundabout. To Sid's point about gaps in the traffic, if you're downstream from the roundabout, if you're a side street somewhere up or downstream, you're going to have a heck of a time getting out in busy traffic because, as Dan points out, there aren't going to be these pulses or gaps in the traffic. That roundabout traffic is going to be continuous. And I know this, final point, because I lived through 3 roundabouts in a mile and a half on Fresh Pond Parkway in Massachusetts. And it was a mess. They had to pull one of them out. So if the plan calls for what they initially had, I think it's doomed to failure. I'll suspend my judgment about a single roundabout or 2, depending on a specific traffic study with current data. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for everybody, basically I'm calling people as order, but as someone new who hasn't spoken before, they'll go to the top of the list. And so I'm calling on Marcia Yates.
Yeah, hi, I'm Marcia Yates, Moss Beach, and I just have to say I support reducing the speed limit in Moss Beach, and I also it's a great point that everybody brought up about the lighting. I do support lowering the lighting so we can maintain the night sky. And I believe in acceleration lanes. I think this would help a lot.
Great. Thank you. Okay, next, Cid Young.
Okay, let's see, where'd I put it? Oh, well, I know we kind of were talking about Cypress Point. They're going to contribute mightily to future traffic in Moss Beach. And there is proposed in this Connect the Coastside plan mitigation fees to help with traffic. Since Joe Leclerc's on the line, and maybe the county's already assessing mitigation fees for other developments that's been approved, such as Big Wave, maybe he can tell us how much money is assessed, or do they just pull a number out of their hat and run it past the developer and see if that will work for the developer? How does that work? Does he know?
Well, I don't think he's there at the particulars. Do you want to say anything about the framework, Joe?
Maybe he left.
No, he's there.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I see him.
Okay, that's okay. We can get back to you later. Thanks, Sid.
Okay, so the thing is, my point is with Cypress Point, it's going to cause a lot of traffic, and it's also going to be what?
Cypress Point is not on the agenda here.
Well, I know that, but it is have to do with the objective, which is 2.1, which is how can we propose that they provide, you know, a safer thing happening. So, all right, never mind. I won't bring it up.
Thank you. Let's see, we have Anne. If you could speak and give us your last name, Anne.
Thank you. This is Anne Rothman, and I am in Moss Beach. And I too have some concerns about the roundabouts. Initially, I thought they sounded like a good idea, but the more I've been exposed to them, and in this particular situation, I am concerned for numerous reasons. One would be the fire trucks, the speed at which they'd be able to get out onto the highway and respond to calls. That concerns me. Two is that I know it was discussed before very briefly, and I remember Joe Leclerc discussing the endangered species. Well, I actually have video of the frogs in that ditch. So they are present, and it concerns me that we may not be able to disturb their habitat. So it may be that the design would have to change in some way, or it may not accommodate that at all. And then finally, I guess like everyone else, the light issue would be something that I'd be concerned about, because in order to make the roundabout safe, I agree, it would have to be well lit, and that would definitely affect the whole entire look of what Moss Beach is and the whole rural community. It turns it into something completely different, and so I'd be very concerned about that. So, and that's just the end of my comment, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Dan Haggerty.
Yes, I just wanted to say a quick comment that in response to closing all left lanes and forcing any car that wants to normally do a left lane, instead make a right lane, go up to the closest roundabout and make a U-turn. Every time a car does that, will effectively create a stop in the dominant flow. I'm going to say it again. if there's a car in the roundabout already, the cars moving on Highway 1 will have to come to a complete stop so they do not run into that car and have a collision.
It's not true.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
true.
I'm one of the reason I opened with the roundabouts is something that's there, and the county, in talking about Connect the Coast site, has made no effort to really provide information about them at this point. I'm sure they will. I think there are a lot of things being said that really express the need to know more about them in detail. And so I don't think this forum is a useful place to try to argue it through in detail, but clearly the community wants more information. Next up is Dolores.
Hi, yes. And on that point, I think that two things also I would like to know about in terms of evaluations of roundabouts is how do they affect emergency vehicles, and how do they affect evacuation if that should need to happen? The other thing I wanted to mention is that you're saying that the timing, like on a roundabout, would be, it takes a long time to evaluate it, maybe 5 years, and then it may be another 5 years before something might get built.
That
And
was the total cycle, not one step.
And the thing about it is, like, how are they considering the impacts of rising seas? I mean, maybe it's not right here and happening here in a couple of spaces where we're considering roundabouts, but the rest of Highway 1, I mean, there's some serious spots not very far in Moss Beach, in Montera, I mean, and then further down by Surfers Beach. What is the future of Highway 1? I worry about that. Are those being considered in these evaluations? And I'm neither for or against roundabouts. I mean, I like the idea. I'm just worried that the cost will be exorbitant because of what has been brought up about the sewer pipelines and the water pipelines running along the highway. So these are things that need to be considered to know if these are even viable options, because they may be just cost prohibitive.
But those are all things we'll want to know about for sure.
Yes. And then I support a reduction in the speed limit. And one other thing that just about Carlos is, I think there was some consideration of speed bumps on Carlos, and that really didn't make sense to me because, as Lisa pointed out, the blocks are short, and I don't know what they would accomplish. And that's it for now.
Very good. JQ.
Yeah, I wanted to say a few words again about what Dolores was just talking about. I was looking at that, one of those documents that talked about roundabouts and how they're done. I forget the name of the document, but it was one of the things that mentioned in there is that you don't do a roundabout where there's manholes or there needs to be an underground access. And I noted that just looking on Google Earth at Cypress Avenue, there's several what look like sewer caps there. I didn't actually walk over there to find out, but anyway, it's something that I think needs to be assessed. And I didn't note that in the intersection control evaluation that was already done for Cypress. I don't think they didn't mention that about those sewer lines there and whether that presented an issue. So I think that's something that needs to be considered.
Okay, thank you. Dave Olson.
Yeah, so several things. I'll answer the most recent one first. I was on site with DPW and DKS and our consultant, Michael Wallwork. There is indeed a sewer connection and also a PG&E vault near there. The consensus was moving it out of the way would be a relatively minor cost. As far as lighting, I want to make sure that I agree with everybody who said that roundabouts require lighting. That is absolutely true. Our consultant has made that point as well. On the flip side, modern highway signalized intersections also require quite a bit of lighting, and in fact might require more than a roundabout. That's sort of up in the air. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. I'll just stop there.
Okay, thank you. Cid.
Okay, I definitely wouldn't mind if they lowered the speed limit, especially in light of the fact that there really aren't any crosswalks. But I didn't really want to say we need 6 overhead streetlights provided by Caltrans, but Carlos Street has all the amber lighting. Maybe we could move it out closer to the highway so it reflects out there so that pedestrians don't get hit and that sort of thing. I'm more thinking about the visibility situation. I don't really like light pollution myself, but there's been, I believe, 3 fatalities on Airport Street where there's absolutely no street lighting, none from the county, and maybe there might be a little right in front of Pillar Ridge, but the stretch between Seal Cove or Cypress Street all the way down towards Pillar Ridge, there isn't any, and a few people have been hit and killed. So one on a bicycle, another was hit by a car that was she was just walking. So anyway, that was one thing I did want to bring up, that eventually Airport Street needs to be addressed, especially because I think well, I haven't been on a trail committee recently, but when Dave Holland had several parks and trails meetings way back when, he talked about having, originally the coastal trail was supposed to go through Seal Cove, but Ocean Boulevard kind of fell into the ocean. It's all cracked and it can't be really used as a bike and pedestrian trail anymore. So he was saying when they put that parking lot in on Airport Street, that Airport would be the new thread of the coastal trail. So it would really help if they do that they have a little bit of lighting along there. And yes, go ahead and lower the speed limit in Moss Beach, but if you do put in lighting, maybe make it amber lighting. As far as the park and rides, oh my God, please do not put one down at the end of Etheldor. When I was on the committee with Dave Holland, we looked at that parcel because I believe the county owns it, but in order to have a community center, which we still don't have, and they said that was a wetland, so that it couldn't be built on. So why would we want to put a parking lot there? That's crazy. Now, up at the, we used to have our MCC meetings at Seton, and they had an upper lot that I don't think ever gets filled nowadays. So if they need to have a park and ride in Moss Beach, maybe they could use that upper lot at Seton Coastside. I don't think the bus goes up there. They might have to hoof it down the hill, but there's already a parking lot built. So why build another one? That's my point. And who knows how much demand there will be for park and rides either. The last thing I did want to bring up, it's not on Connect the Coastside, but I really feel that it should be. There's no emergency evacuation plan for the coastside. And I just feel that it's completely negligent for the county to have overlooked that. Time's up.
Thank you. Before we go to the next speaker, I want to just make a point to put in here. You mentioned Airport Street. Airport Street is considered in a county planning framework, part of Plan Princeton, but because Airport Street really is a major access point, I'd like to see Connect the Coastside take that under its wing as well. I mean, just as Carlos in the Moss Beach is relevant as a parallel trail path, I think Airport Street and with the Cypress connection could well be put in here. So just putting a plug in for that.
I thought it was.
No, it's not. But I think it should be. Harold, you're next.
It is. It's there as a class 1, 2, and 3 bike route on the page 4 of their 12-page executive summary. Oh wait, I'm sorry, Lisa Ketchum's comments. Never mind. Back up.
Okay, Harold, you're next.
Yeah. Hi, Harold Herman. I have a couple of comments on this, the roundabouts, and based on what we saw in Connect the Coast side, or at least in one of the versions, so we have either 2 or 3 roundabouts just in Moss Beach on Highway 1, either roundabouts or traffic lights. I think these were the options. On the roundabout, I think I recall I saw cost estimates for 6 to 7 million per roundabout, and I think that was for a single one. So that did not include any land acquisition cost. So it would be great to get that figure. And then I saw the comment, and I had a discussion with Montero Water. So it seems like there are high pressure water and sewer lines that run on the west and the east side of Highway 1 and really close to Highway 1. So they will need to be rerouted. And I think I saw a comment here, though I kind of disagree, and that's not what I heard from Montero Water, though this is a big deal to reroute these. So this needs to be priced. I agree with Sid's comments, evacuation route. I really miss that in the CTC, especially when Big Wave is approved, 1,500 daily trips. And then if Cypress Point gets approved, we have another 500. So there's a pretty good chance that Moss Beach becomes a bottleneck on the whole coast side with everything that's planned. On the video from Tahoe, I just was up there 2 weeks ago. The picture looked very different around these roundabouts. So I think you had a good day when you videotaped. So if you had a lot more traffic there, these things get super busy and clog up as well. So the roundabout, and I grew up in Europe, is not a magic bullet. And finally, the Carlos extension into the 14th or 16th Street. And I know Mr. Horsley picked up on that as well. So they just, was it 1-2 years ago, Montero Water replaced the sewer main going under Highway 1. And when you extend Carlos, you're gonna hit that box, and actually it's covered by saying gravel, goes up slightly on the hillside. So this will be impacted and will need to be redone. I think the community paid, was it $1 million, $1.5 million for that? So I just want to bring that up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly Williams.
Hi. Someone mentioned the parking lots, and I wasn't sure if we were just supposed to discuss that now, but I wanted to say
talk
that.
about it.
Okay. I do not support additional parking lots, and especially not a park and ride in Moss Beach at Etheldor. Parking lots would invite more visitors parking. It would disrupt the neighborhoods. It would invite more litter, more congestion. There would also need to be lights for any parking lot. That area is full of wildlife. There's often fledging owls around that area. There are other wildlife in Moss Beach that I see when I come through there at night. Foxes, coyotes. I mean, I don't think park and rides are necessary, honestly, because I feel like, and I have commuted into the city. I've commuted over the hill, and I've commuted to Palo Alto, San Francisco. Honestly, when I've shared rides, the distances are not long here. So it's very easy to drive to someone's home to pick them up or to meet them or for them to pick you up. I don't see that a park and ride is needed. Park and ride in Pacifica for the bus, I've used that, but I do not see that one in Moss Beach is needed. And I also do not support paved lots. If we do end up with any parking lot, which I think would be a tragedy, paved lots, I think, cause more runoff and pollution. I know the county favors them because they find them easier to deal with, but they're not environmentally friendly. And there's a lot said about catchments in paved parking lots, but they're often not maintained well. So any parking lot, such as the one that's being considered for El Granada especially, I know that Surfrider is looking at how they will propose any lot be water permeable. And I think that's something that should be on the radar here as well. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. JQ.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that this park and ride idea is really just part of the Samtrans improvements that are meant to get people out of their cars, basically. But I wonder whatever happened to the school bus idea. We've talked about that in the past, and it seems to keep disappearing. And I think that needs to be compared to any Samtrans improvements. Maybe that's most of what we really need is school buses to get kids to school. And I know that the bus schedules now are kind of built around that, but I'm not sure they're doing a good enough job. So anyway, maybe that's something that Dave remembers what the discussion was on school buses and how that got resolved, or if it ever did. Thank you.
Okay. Dan.
Yes, on the park and rides, I want to say, I really do understand the sensitivity in the community about concern. I will say just quickly that I'm open to, I guess, further discussion about how, now I want to be very clear. I would never advocate for a large parking lot anywhere. I think that if the concept was moving forward, there should be more smaller lots spread out so you wouldn't notice them, well landscaped. So it fits into the community, it's proper character. Definitely not any large, brightly lit lots. I want to add that, one of the maybe unknown benefits of having some small parking areas here and there and over there is our highway is in desperate need of the ability to make a U-turn. Oftentimes you cannot, if you want to enter the highway and you want to make a left turn, the traffic is so congested, it's just not safe. A lot of times people make a right turn when they want to make a left turn, and they go up to the point where they can only cross one direction of traffic instead of two. One direction of traffic making a left turn, and then once they're off the highway, they can turn around safely and then enter the direction they want to go, not crossing any lanes. Now, if there were, more small parking areas, this would create the ability up and down the coast side. This would create the ability for a car that can enter the parking lot, and then once they're off the road, they can go through the motions of the parking lot and then come back out and then just make a right turn safely. So I just wanted to add that. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next, Claire.
I just want to go on record as opposing a park and ride lot for Moss Beach. I think park and ride lots are effective when they are at a natural point of where different commute paths intersect. Park and ride lot in the middle of Moss Beach would not attract anybody to it as a logical place to take another route to work or wherever they're going. I don't think it makes any sense at all. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Let's see. Cid Young.
Well, I guess I'm the one that brought up the darn park and ride, saying that I wasn't in favor of it, but if they had to, it would be better to use some existing paved surfaces already. Like I mentioned, the Seton Coastside upper parking lot is not too well used as far as I know. Maybe it is. I don't know. Secondly, over in Seal Cove, we have a big long street between airport and goes up towards the distillery. And I notice a lot of times there's people, either distillery employees, or sometimes there's these geological field trips. And that street, Los Banos, gets filled up. It's already paved. They can park there for free. You know, I mean, that would be another alternative park and ride spot, with, like Dan was saying, I think have them spread out in little places and not some major thing with big lights. And I just don't, I'm not in favor of them. But I honestly think, like what Kimberly Williams was saying, you're going to give somebody a ride, just go get them at their house or meet somewhere close by.
Is that it? Thank you.
Well,
I just want to.
One more thing. I was just going to say, and I definitely support school buses, bringing them back. However, I'm pretty sure the CUSD is not going to do it because they'd rather spend their money on teachers' salaries and God knows what else they need. But they seem to always be poor mouthing and crying broke. So I don't think we're going to get the school buses back, but I would support it.
Okay, thank you. Kimberly Williams.
Sorry, I just wanted to add two things. With all due respect to Dan, and I appreciate your point of view, making a U-turn anywhere from Half Moon Bay to Pacifica is a problem. I don't think that's specific to Moss Beach, and I cannot support the idea of a parking lot just for that purpose. And honestly, I feel like these parking lots are suggested because they will they will allow visitors to park there on the weekends. And I think that will make things much worse, especially congestion wise. And then the other thing is, you mentioned Seton. Seton's lot actually is mostly full almost every day. I walk up there and run up there. I've been working with them on their litter issue. Their parking lot is overflowing most days, so that's not really an option. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Greg?
I just like to pile on and agree with everybody about the park and ride. I'm not aware we're going to have a bus service in the area that merits the stop there. And I also got a letter this week from a transportation engineer expert guy, and he's questioning the entire future of mass transit, at least during the COVID era. This virus could be with us for several years. So, you know, it's hard to see that makes a lot of sense, at least not now.
Okay, thank you. Dave Olson?
A couple things. On the park and ride, which I'm not a fan of, let me be very clear. The reason they propose that is carpooling. It has nothing to do with mass transit. On the school bus issue, yeah, the school district can't afford it. They try to get parents to pay for, or at least partially pay for it. A few years back, that didn't work out. Samtrans did add another bus, the 118, just for school hours. To do more than that, they're going to have to get a subsidy from somebody, be it the county, developer fees, philanthropist, I don't know. But Samtrans has gone about as far in that direction as they are willing to go. They, like everybody else, are somewhat cash strapped. And the thing that I had forgotten on my last time around was emergency vehicles and roundabouts. The roundabouts are designed with an apron in the middle. They don't have a sharp curb. So emergency vehicles and large trucks just go up and over the apron. So they have no trouble getting through roundabouts at significant speed. That's it.
Let's see, Dan? You're mute, Dan. Dan, you're muted.
I'm sorry.
But now you're
Slow computer for some reason.
okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry, everyone. Just to reiterate, I really agree with the concern about park and rides. I just wanted to mention that I was at some Samtrans meetings and overall discussion about reducing the flow of the cars on the highway, and how do we get around that? How do we do that? And it was brought up. Could it make it easier for someone that's like, way out far up in the hill that would normally not get off the bus and then walk up the hill? The idea was to have these park and rides relatively close to bus stops. It would make sense. And then also carpooling. The guy that lives way, far away, the guy that's going to pick him up, of course, if he's just off the highway, it's not a big deal. But if they have to drive, through any extra distance, well, we know how people are. Everybody's in a hurry and they just want to get their commute quickly. So that was the idea, to try to, from my recollection in discussions, was to try to make it so that to make it a little easier for people that want to ride the bus that might be, far up in the hill. And again, also carpooling. So, but I do understand there's a concern about, anyway, I think that, hey, it's worth maybe a small trial. Nothing major, nothing big, please. No big lots. That's all.
Thank you, Dan. As we talk about parking, I guess this is really the community council. We're mostly from the community here, but from the standpoint of the state and the whole coastal resource, they're very concerned to let the whole state get good access to it. And I'm supportive of that in principle. What I would like to see from Connect the Coast side is some way to quantify the visitor traffic. That, just like housing has limits, and there's no effort to put that into the picture, and we know it affects it. So I'd like to see some way to quantify the goals in terms of visitor traffic, much less where they park. Okay, Greg.
Well, I want to make sure to thank you and Dave and the council for holding this session. Len, you made a point about something that was out of scope about Airport Boulevard, and I thought that made a lot of sense. I also wondered if somebody could explain why the things that are out of scope are considered out of scope. I mean, the fragmented planning with Half Moon Bay, I know they're making an effort with Jill to get together, but how can you finish the plan until Half Moon Bay finishes its plan? Evacuation, and then all the impact that's going to be on the back roads. How's that out of scope? How is that all off bounds?
Well, the point is, airport is considered part of a planning effort called Plan Princeton. So that's where it sits primarily. I feel, given the emphasis on transportation and roads, it would be a better fit here to be more explicit about it. So that was the nature of my comment. Okay, Anne.
Hi, thank you. I also had a question. This is off the topic slightly, but Kelmore Street has never been mentioned in any studies. And I'm concerned because that's where I live. And that's right in the heart of the Cypress Point project to California. And I want to know why there hasn't been any studies or any mention of any kind of improvements to the road. What are they going to do as far as access for the fire trucks? And just in general, there's been no mention of the street whatsoever. And I just want to know, what are the plans?
One of the things I want to point out to you in the list of attachments for the meeting as background was an email that came from Qua Vo. Qua is general manager for roads for the county. He's relatively new on the job, but has a program to review all the county roads. and ones that are not directly tied to Highway 1 fall under his province. So, and I do expect we'll try to get him to the council relatively soon to talk about both his overview and road concerns. So that's why both for this project, Cypress Point has a lot to do with roads that get from Cypress Point down to the connection to the highway. And so do the roads that are up in Moss Beach, some that are considered efficient and some that aren't even part of the county road system. So that's recognized. He did touch on that a bit in his email, and I think we certainly want to hear more about it, but that's why it's not considered part of Connect the Coast side. Let's see, Cid, you're back.
Well, I told you I had 6 pages of different notes. I think when on the executive summary, they had goal number 3, and they talked about alternate biking, walking, and riding public transit, but they don't have any money. So one of my suggestions would be for the pedestrian trail or bike trail infrastructure along Highway 1, maybe the first thing they should do is build a little paved pathway north of Cypress Point so the kids can walk to Montera safely. I know they talked about going south to downtown Moss Beach, but I really think, you know, since we don't have school buses, it might be something that little kids will be walking right along the highway with no separation. So it'd be nice to have some kind of a paved trail instead of that little dirt path. And as far as 3.2 would be bicycle infrastructure, I don't know, I guess they're talking about like a parking lot for bicycles, but I'm not sure. But if they're talking about trails, I really think they need to build a trail and connect it with Half Moon Bay's multimodal trail that, you know, I see a lot of people commuting on their bikes that work down at Rocket Farms. And I think some of the people at Pillar Ridge ride their bikes a lot too, and maybe it's their transportation, but they can't really do much going north.
That's the parallel trail, Sid.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm just saying that was part of this goal number 3. And then 3.3, the bus stops need to be clean, well lit, covered, and have trash cans. That's my main thing for the public transportation input. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, next up is Greg again.
Greg's hand must not have come down, sorry.
Okay, then it's Dan.
Yes, I think we're at a point where we can start a new topic. I like to, ask the question, okay, what slows down the traffic on Highway 1? What causes gridlock? So, yes, there are cars that really you can't do a lot about. They need to get on. Traffic will need to slow down or stop to allow cars to get on safely. People need to get out of their neighborhoods and get where they need to get to go. The other half of that equation are pedestrians crossing the road. Pedestrians, fortunately, we can do something that with our tax dollar investment, we can do something that would actually make it safer and increase the flow of Highway 1, reduce the backup. And that I've spoken a lot about pedestrian underpasses. Again, it's the only tax dollar investment that will actually improve the situation. It's the only one. I want to say there are many examples across the nation, in California, around the world. La Cochita down in Southern California just recently built a nice underpass under Highway 101. I walked underneath it myself. Beautiful. We have one in Pacifica just a little bit south of Rio Del Mar. I'm sorry, a little north. What that is mainly used for is connecting the golf course. There's two patches of whatever holes that so the golfers are walking underneath. We don't even know it. We don't even see it. They're walking back and forth underneath. Could you imagine if they put a on-demand stoplight for every golfer crossing Highway 1 in Pacifica? Could you imagine that? So not only do the golfers use it, but people in the neighborhood use it. And I have been aware that there's a lot of these underpasses built specifically for wildlife crossings, which are of the structure that are large enough for humans to walk under, for the cost of $1 million up around Truckee area. There's a lot of them. Some of them have been built for under $1 million. So, the fact that the county has not allowed any serious conversation here with pedestrian underpasses leads me to believe that they truly do not want to improve the traffic flow and truly improve the safety of pedestrians crossing the road.
And a question, could you tell me approximately how many underpasses would you like to see built if they would go ahead and do it?
Let's start with one.
Oh, how many would you like to see?
No, let's start with one.
That wasn't the question I asked. The question I asked is, you talk about them in many places, so would you really like to see 10 or 12 underpasses?
That's probably a high number.
Okay.
I haven't gone, it really depends on the need.
Just curious about the point. Thank you. Cid.
Hello again. I'm not in favor of underpasses as a female. I just think they seem scary. I wouldn't use one to save my life, but maybe they're, monitored by video now and have good lighting. Dan said, what slows down traffic? And personally, I think it's tourists, but I also feel it's red lights because it just seems like there's not that much traffic up on the coast, except on a weekend. Then once you get up to Surfers Beach where all this traffic signals start, then everything slows down. And then the other thing that slows down traffic, of course, is jaywalkers. And that brings me to the next point, which I was going to make. And that is, let me see, on goal number 4 of the Connect the Coast side, they said they wanted to respect the character of the coast side. So 4.1 for me would be no stoplights north of the harbor. Do not spend a nickel on Gray Whale Cove before you spend money on improving the highway through our communities. That's that one. Now, goal number 5 was identify popular destinations. And I would have to say Mavericks and Montara State Beach, the harbor, and the Marine Reserve up this way. Of course, down at Surface Beach, that's different. But Montara, I don't know if anybody's gone out on weekends recently, but even on Friday afternoons, traffic is pretty major coming down the coast from the city or north of Montara. And the Montara State Beach, they don't have enough parking because people are parking along the shoulders of the highway, and they open their car doors out into what might have been a bike path, or the shoulder, and they also are walking along that shoulder. So I don't know if they want to pave any more parking there, but they should provide more because it is a destination for people. And it's a good alternative to Gray Whale Cove because you don't have to cross the highway. You can park on the ocean side of the highway. And I have seen people make U-turns right there, by the way. It's horrible. The other night I was coming down Devil's Slide to go north, and the guy was making a U-turn right outside the tunnel. It was like, I didn't even see him at first, but I had my high beams on and I started honking. He just kept making his U-turn instead of stopping and yielding to traffic. So you can never account for the crazies. But I really think, you know, if you're going to identify the popular destinations, like the ones I mentioned, it's pretty paramount to have some parking for them, because otherwise, like what we noticed when the lockdown was happening, people will park in neighborhoods, and nobody likes that. So that's my point there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Okay, with that, we're going to call on Kimberly Williams, and that will be our last speaker for tonight. So go ahead, Kimberly.
Thanks, Lynn. I just want to make some final points to maybe carry back to the county. And that is that this idea that the more we open up the roadway to more traffic and, you know, welcome more traffic in, the more traffic we're going to have. And if we think that's going to solve our traffic problems, it probably won't. There's this idea of induced demand for which the more you open up venues for traffic, the more traffic that comes to fill that up, and it doubles your problem. So then the problem becomes worse. It doesn't solve your problem, it just makes it larger. So I'd like to keep that in mind. And then the other thing I'd like to say is that I'd like the priority to be a focus on biking and walking solutions for the coast side. I think that's really important. The other thing I'd like to say is that all of this Connect the Coast Side discussion has been centered around development and current and future development. And I think I would like to see injected into the conversation, into the planning, more emphasis on conservation, preserving the rural character, education on the history of the place, wildlife, and the coastal environment, and less emphasis on accommodating development. There aren't many coastal areas in California left like this place, and it's really easy to lose it, you know, death by 1,000 cuts. This is a special place, and we should value it and think carefully as we proceed. And we have to really make sure that the county understands that, because a lot of the people working with the county, they come and they go, and they don't really understand this place or value it. They're just doing a job and trying to get through, you know, to the next paycheck or to get to the end of the project. So it's up to us to value it and to make sure that we keep it the way it is, in a good way. And I'm definitely not a NIMBY. I'm not anti-development, but I think it's just going to take a lot to slow down the county on this. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, JQ, you can give one last shot, and you too, Dan. Go ahead, JQ.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to talk about some general concerns I have with regard to inconsistent numbers that have been presented in various reports and presentations about the Connect the Coast Side over the last few months, I guess. I sent one such item to MCC last week regarding Joe Leclerc's presentation on July 8th to MCC, in which he used some data from the Connect the Coast Side report, and specifically from table 16 of that report, and that data was flawed. There's some serious errors in that table, and they need to be corrected. Also, I noted in a memo that Joe Leclerc just put out on July 14th, which was called a Summary of Development Projections Informing Connect the Coast Side, there's this inconsistent baseline data in tables 3 and 4 of that memorandum. They have different baseline data, and they should have the same. These kinds of errors are very concerning, because these data drive important decisions, and we shouldn't be seeing things like this. So I'd like to see that all cleaned up and a better effort made to make sure that the math is done properly and that we're getting good numbers to make good decisions on. Thank you.
Thank you, JQ. Dan?
Yeah, just to be clear, are you closing the meeting? Is this the last comment?
Yeah, well, for this part of it, I am.
This part, can you elaborate, please?
We have to discuss our future agendas. That's the last item on the agenda.
Okay, so I'll be real quick. That you know, I've got a big question as to okay, I love this area. I want to retire here. I want to be able to afford my tax dollar, my property tax bill. I'm concerned with, you know, this whole process of the mobility study, and the Connect the Coast side has been broken up, and then now it's restarted, and there has been really zero. All of the background work has been omitted. It's like all that tax dollar work that has been done earlier has just been erased. So my question is, to Joe Leclerc is, why was all of the background work omitted? Also, I'll be real short. I agree with Lenny Roberts' concern. I've been very vocal on this as well. That I think that there's been a complete failure with the whole breakout system, pretty much shutting down and controlling the voice of the community to be heard by the whole community. Specifically, the individual comments were written down by people that don't know the background, and there was just a big filter there that should have never been. And that's all I really have to say.
So a question about one comment you had there, Dan. In terms of information, I know the MCC maintains a pretty complete repository of Connect the Coast side information going back several years. So I assume you would consider that complete. You're talking about what the county has on their Connect the Coast side page?
I'm specifically talking about the interests of the community that has been voiced in the past.
What I'm pointing to is on the MCC website for Connect the Coast side, we have a pretty extensive history. I view it as pretty complete. I'm asking whether you're referring to earlier studies that are not referenceable on the county's Connect the Coast side page.
I don't know that all the meetings were covered. I don't know that. I know that there's been a lot of
talking about the MCC website. Do you consider that complete?
I'm not in a position right now to say that it's complete.
I'd ask you to take a look at it. We feel it is, and I think the county's page certainly only has the current view.
Well,
So.
regardless, none of the voicing from the Connect the Coast side presentations has reflected any of the past comments. I have not heard that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, still got people want to come. We'll go down to Claire.
I was just surprised that we were closing the comments. I know that you wanted to focus on Moss Beach, but there may be other things in other parts of this plan that people might want to address. What?
No, it's open for anything else. It was just not getting too much in the way of new comments. There's no, as I said at the beginning, Connect the Coast site is an open topic. Is there something you'd like to bring up?
No, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't close prematurely. God knows I don't want to prolong the meeting, but I do want to make sure that any other things like perhaps other cities are open for discussion, but if people have something to say to it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dave.
Claire said 95% of what I wanted to say, but I will say it's not just the highway, it is the build out. Several people talked about development and preserving the rural character. And that is supposed to be 50% of what the CTMP is about. It's currently about 5%. So anybody who has any comments, hopefully positive suggestions or complaints about anything that's in Connect the Coast side, it's fair game for this meeting.
Okay. Anything else you want to highlight while you're up?
Nothing that I haven't said many times before, and build out is my big thing. I've said it in other meetings, but I'll say it once in this meeting. Transit alternatives of various kinds, which means subsidies, which means developer fees, are critical if we want to avoid getting 2 or 3 more cars on the road for every single unit that's built, be it an apartment or a house. So,
thank you. Cid, do you have something new for us?
Well, since you're wrapping up, when I was reading over the thing, they did mention the LCP section 2.53 as adopted back in 2011 that calls for a CTMP to address cumulative impacts of Midcoast development, including an in-lieu fee for a traffic mitigation program. So I still want to ask that question. Maybe Joe will weigh in. Maybe you can get the answer back to me at some future date. But since 2011, when they adopted that section 2.53 of the LCP at the county, have they been collecting an in-lieu fee for all Midcoast developments to go to traffic mitigation? And if so, how much is the fee?
Can I
So,
answer that one?
yes, please.
The answer is no. Connect the Coast Side is the CTMP, and that fee is supposed to be an outcome of when Connect the Coast Side and any approval by the Coastal Commission happen. It could have happened ahead of it, but the county is waiting for this process.
So all the development that's been approved, they haven't been collecting it towards traffic improvement features, basically. You're saying, even though they started looking at it back in 2011, well, 2009 for the highway mobility study. Okay, so the other thing was, it did say that they started developing that original Connect the Coast Side between 2014 and 2019. And even though it's dated, it shows mobility deficiencies. So we're still at square one on that. And I just want to point out, I'm also in favor of alternate forms of transportation, but they said, I think Joe Leclerc said they don't have the money. So, you know, we're just writing down goals some more. So that's basically what we're doing now. And it did say that 14.2 goals and objectives describe the community's preferred future. And I think pretty much loud and clear, people were saying they don't want park and rides. They don't want really bright street lighting, even though they might need some. And I personally think we do have to cope with the visitor serving traffic. So we might as well have a little bit more parking for them when they get here, so they're not doing what they have been doing, which is parking here, there, and everywhere. Thanks.
Thanks, Sid. Dan, looks like you still want to say something. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So just a real quick comment about sidewalks. I do understand that in some areas, sidewalks may be appropriate, but in a lot of areas, if you build sidewalks, then the road is just going to be so much more narrow. Most of our roads are through our villages are so narrow that it's difficult to pass two directions. And then also I wanted to just touch on Lisa's letter as far as roadway shoulder treatments. So I agree with her that, as she says, you know, residents prefer a more rural treatment to better blend in with the community character. I think it's absurd to think of, I do believe that I heard in one of the Connect the Coast Side presentations to talk about curb and gutter along Highway 1. Absolutely absurd. So I'll stop at that. Keep the community character. Keep this beautiful rural highway environment that we have.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, I think we've had a lot of comments. I appreciate everybody's input. Oh, it's a new face. Rob. Rob, are you there?
Yes, this is Rob Carey, C-A-R-E-Y. Just two items. One, I'd like to make a plug for the need to improve the pathway on the east side of Highway 1, on the south side of Montero, across Montero Creek Ravine, between 14th and 16th. I see that's a missing link for safe pedestrian and biking. It was noted on Lisa Ketchum's page 4 of her comments, and it was actually underlined it, and I think Sid mentioned it tonight. So I think that's kind of a key part that's missing in for somebody that's trying to get down the coast. And then I'd also like to see a feasibility study and a conceptual plan for installation of a pedestrian tunnel underpass in Moss Beach. Something I would take a preliminary look at drainage and gravity sanitary sewer issues. And because I assume the roadway cross section would be narrowed at the crossing, taking a look at least at the concept now might help inform or provide input into the other what you might say interim design features in the area. And, I assume there would be very good lighting and cameras to address the safety issues. And this project would have a long timeline, but it would solve the safe crossing problem for everyone, kids, families, the disabled, etc. I think it's kind of looking big, let's say, but to something that would work well. And I know previous transportation studies, they looked at a pedestrian bridge south of Carlos. I think they actually did some drawings of it, but I think an underpass would have less grade separation difference than an overpass and have much less impact on the view. And it could be located to best serve the town.
In talking about it generally, are you thinking about the location where the crosswalk was recently put in, or some other location in Moss Beach?
I would be thinking about whatever the best spot is.
Where the best spot is. Okay, thank you.
That would serve as main. Yes, whatever. That's part. I would say part of a feasibility and conceptual plan. But just to get something out, to get somebody at least looking at it, get something on paper that you could at least get the subject, the thought out there for people to think about.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, you've been doing good support. Go ahead and speak.
Thank you. So, sorry, I've been trying to frantically keep up with everything here, but trying to get everyone's comments, and I'll definitely go back to the video if for a few of the things that I've missed. I just wanted to go on the record and as someone who lives in Moss Beach in the Sealed Cove area and has to turn out on from Cypress Avenue. I am a fan of a roundabout there. Definitely not a fan of signals. I think we know having to go, for me, when I have to go south through El Granada and Half Moon Bay, the signals just slow everything down. I used to commute down to Mountain View, and it would take sometimes 30 minutes just to get from Moss Beach to Half Moon Bay. So not a fan of signals at all. But am a fan of roundabouts because turning out left onto that road and sometimes even turning right on the weekends is extremely difficult. So I think it would both provide a way for people all of us that live, either in Seal Cove or in Pillar Ridge, gives us a way to safely get out onto the highway. Also allows pedestrians to cross potentially, since a roundabout always has the pedestrian lanes, so you can kind of go across one step at a time. And I agree that lowering the speed for those that live in El Granada and south and need to travel north, it's a little bit of an inconvenience to have to slow down to maybe 25 miles an hour, maybe 0, maybe you have to stop completely if someone's in the roundabout when you're trying to go, although that shouldn't be the case because the highway will have the right of way. But I agree it's a little bit of an inconvenience, but sometimes I have to wait 5 minutes to turn left. And so I think that, I have to slow down when I go south and through El Granada. I don't think slowing down is going to be a big inconvenience. And I do think that it will not be bad for those who don't live at the roundabouts. I don't really think it's going to create those time period, a steady flow of traffic. Right now we have a steady flow of traffic, especially on the weekends where we just can't get out. And so a roundabout won't change that at all. I agree a stoplight would create those breaks, but we're comparing what would be to what we have now. And in that case, I think a roundabout is a lot better than what we have now, at least for those of us who live in Moss Beach and have to either cross the highway on foot or in a car.
Okay, thank you. Dan, do you have something new for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to apologize. I just want to make it very clear that nobody will have the right of way. The dominant flow of Highway 1 will not have the right of way. The cars entering the roundabout will not have the right of way. Who's ever there first will have the right of way. Whoever's in the roundabout will have the right of way. So to avoid collisions, the other direction will have to come to a complete stop.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as I said, I think we've all had good chance to speak, those who want to. If there's anybody who's not spoken at all and wants to say something, definitely raise your hand and you'll get recognized. Otherwise, I'm going to call this part of the meeting complete. As I said in the materials we put out, our goal is to be able to post something by next Monday that would reflect both the takeaway from this specific session, but in the last two MCC meetings, we've also collected comments from people, as JQ noted, and we hope to have all of those represented. So we'll give people a chance to see what's there. If by any chance we have misstated things, get a chance to mention it to us. But we do want to get it to the county. The county's goal at this point with this information received is they're just about done with collecting that and hope to come back to us in early September with a report. So that's where that follows. Yes, Dan?
Yeah, I'm sorry. One quick added that around roundabouts is that the studies have said that, you know, the high-speed collisions, everybody knows, are reduced, but low-speed collisions usually increase. Imagine a low-speed collision on the only artery of our highway, of our community. Many low-speed collisions.
Dan, you're
stopping the traffic completely. So
Okay.
that's just a thought. That's something that I wanted to bring up earlier, and I just brought it up. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. This concludes the agenda item. We're going to move now to talk about future meetings. And in particular, we have two regular meetings scheduled in August, but for the first one, both Michelle and I will be out of town. It'll be hard to get there. We've had quite a few meetings, so I'm proposing that we not meet again till the 26th of August, but there are some items that are pressing, and I know, Claire, I think you wanted to review things that you felt are important to take up. You're muted, Claire. Claire, you're muted. Claire, you're muted. Can you unmute? Uh-oh. Claire, are you able to unmute yourself? No. Okay.
Can Dave unmute her?
Maybe that worked. Does that work?
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Okay. No, I think the things that I had mentioned to you were the treasurer's report, and I wanted to look at the bridge closure and what we could do about safety on the highway. I don't think either of those things would make a big deal of difference if it was the third week or the fourth week of August. I don't have strong feelings.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Then,
Glenn, I have.
Barbara.
I'd like to try to find a good schedule where we could have CAL FIRE come out and do a presentation for the Zone Haven program. So I'm talking or emailing with Jonathan Cox, but I just want to get it out there that I'd like to get it on an agenda in the next couple months.
Okay. But what I will look to put out is the things that are on the agenda potentially and get comments from everyone on those. Okay, we'll follow up that way. We'll take a motion to adjourn.
No, can I just add something that as far as a potential future agenda item, I think that we should really invite a representative from Caltrans to come I've been noticing in regards to the current traffic signal programming, I've been noticing that there's been some changes, and I've recently learned that all of the traffic control programming is done from headquarters in Oakland. Caltrans has complete control in Oakland over how our traffic lights operate in our community. That's my understanding.
Okay, so you're interested in knowing something about that?
Yeah, I'd like to have Caltrans clearly explain how that operates. Yes.
There's a new information officer for Caltrans for our county. We just were introduced to him earlier this week, and so I'll put that request to him.
Yeah, because I'm sitting at red lights with no traffic going in any direction in the morning, and it's doesn't make sense. And it used to be not that way.
Okay. Thank you.
The opposite of smart traffic lights.
Sounds good. Did somebody make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor? Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Good night's sleep.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Be safe.
Michelle, I